Welcome to a new episode of Delphine Circle, where we uncover the mind, body, and spirit of success. Subscribe now for free to receive updates on the latest interviews. Then, sit back, relax, and tune in. Heidi, welcome to the Circle.
Thank you for having me.
Heidi Zuckerman, CEO and Director of the Orange County Museum of Art. You've curated more than 200 exhibits. You've authored numerous books, including the Conversation with Artists series and the beloved children's book Rainbow Hour. Also hosted the podcast Conversation About Art. Well, we met recently, and it was only after I stalked you and asked every mutual friend we had to try to introduce us. And Lisa Bethal-Mirage did a sister a solid and made the connection. So I'm so excited to have you here because I really am a big fan. I love art and I love podcasts and I love strong women, and you're all of those things. So happy to have you. But I gotta ask, 14 years at the Aspen Museum of Art. Beautiful town, Aspen, I love it. What convinced you to come here to California and take on the inordinate job of creating a new museum of art for Orange County?
First of all, thanks for having me on. And I also love strong women and podcasts and art and fashion. So I think this is going to be an amazing conversation. I had already left the Aspen Art Museum before this opportunity came up. And I really have as my life's mission to connect people to art and artists to make their lives better. And after 14 years in Aspen, I wanted to see if there was a more immediate vehicle for doing that. And so I wanted to start a podcast. I wanted to do the second volume in the Conversations with Artists book series, and wanted to see if there were other ways to kind of do what I had been doing. And then the pandemic happened, and I realized that it was kind of lonely to not run a museum. Mm-hmm. And then this opportunity came up, and there are a lot of things that were in alignment for me about it, and it just seemed kind of like a no-brainer to come here and do the project. I'm sure we'll get into more details around it, but that's what I would say. I felt like coming here was kind of fated, like I was always supposed to be here.
Yeah. Well, and coming over, you've had the opportunity to work with award-winning architect Thom Mayne. And I hear that this museum is turning out to be fabulous. So tell me a little bit about the process of the construction, the building, and how much involvement you've actually had in the design of the building.
Yeah. So there's a really interesting story. In 2008, when the Aspen Art Museum was looking for the architect, there were 3 finalists, Guyton and Guyton, a Swiss firm, Shigeru Ban, who we worked with, also Pritzker Prize winning architect, and Thom Mayne. So I knew Thom from 2008. In 2008, simultaneous with our process in Aspen, the Orange County Museum of Art was looking for an architect. And the 3 finalists there were a South American firm, Shigeru Ban, and Thom Mayne, who of course was hired. So the projects I've always thought were sort of sister projects. So I had really known a lot about this project for a long time. And the design was over a 17-year process, 14 different designs. So when I got it, it was already really well thought through. And Thom had never designed an art museum before. He had designed science museums, and so this is really kind of the crown jewel in his overall achievement. And what I was able to do once I arrived was to work with him and his team to do some enhancements to the design. An interesting kind of fun fact about me is when this project opens, I'll be the first woman to have ever completed 2 ground-up museum projects in America.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's very cool.
I have the experience of having built a museum previously, but also operating it. So I was able to go through the design with Thom and make some enhancements to visitor experience. And we can talk more specifically about that if you like, but also, security for objects and people, and some aesthetic around the lighting and the ceiling design in the primary gallery. So a few things were available for me to augment.
So since you already had that relationship with Thom, do you know, did he have any say in trying to get you over here?
I don't think so.
No.
But I do.
Crazier things have happened.
That's true. That's true. And when I ran into Brandon Welling, who's the partner in charge of the project, my third day on the job, we did a tour for what's now my YPO chapter. And that was the first time I saw Brandon. He said, "Thank you for coming to save us."
Aww.
And I said, you know, it's my honor.
Cool.
It's my honor and pleasure.
Yay. So tell us a little bit about what's going to be encompassed in the museum.
So the museum is really intended to be the anchor for art and culture in Orange County. And it is what you would find really in any art museum. So in addition to having exhibitions of special exhibitions, some of which will travel from other places, exhibitions from our permanent collection, we also have an amazing education pavilion. We have an incredible shop. We have an amazing restaurant and bar. We have outdoor space for people to come and experience the art, but also conversation and food and drink and shopping with people that they love.
I love that. And is there going to be an opportunity for the public to be able to, you know, rent space if they wanted to have their own private event?
Yes, we definitely have rental spaces, and we have an incredible woman in charge of the rental program. So everything from the upper plaza to a classroom space to the restaurant space, we definitely have rental opportunities.
Awesome, because I know I love to go to big, beautiful architectural design buildings for events, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be chomping at the bit to try to have an event there, so that's super cool.
Yeah, we already have a couple weddings on the books.
Well, and the Eggerstrum Center is such a hub. It's really, they've done such a beautiful job at building out that space and being so close to the Repertory Theater and so close to the shopping center and so close to the, I mean, there's just so many things to do there. It's really going to be quite the cherry on the top when the museum opens, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that was Henry Segerstrom's vision for the area. Mm-hmm. The art museum was always intended to be there, and it was always intended as the last piece of the cultural puzzle. And interestingly, Thom Mayne is a longtime friend of Cesar Pellé's, who designed the second concert hall there. And Cesar Pellé told Thom Mayne that that's why he didn't finish that side of the building, because he always knew the museum was coming. So the facade of our building is referential to the facade of that building. So there's this continuity and respect and grace that happens, kind of like a dance between the buildings.
Wow, that's very cool. I was thinking about you going over there and all of the hats that you're wearing and wondering how you even had time to do this podcast, because you're overseeing a construction project, you're fundraising, big part of the job, right? Curating, team leading, event planning. Which of those roles is creating the most amount of growth requirement on your part?
You know, I think the biggest opportunity here is coming into a new community and learning all the kind of ins and outs of goals and expectations and hopes and dreams. And I mentioned the fact that the project has been 14 designs over 17 years. And the museum was founded 60 years ago this year by 13 visionary women. And there's so many people that have so much invested in this project. And the learning curve is really figuring out how to honor everyone and have everyone feel included in the project and the experience.
Oh, well, that leads me into my next question. You got to tell me about the opening exhibit. I've been hearing some little hints going around, but I hear it's going to be pretty fabulous. So what do you got planned for the opening exhibit?
So we're opening with 5 different shows, and one of the things that we're doing kind of holistically, my vision for the institution is to look back, to move forward. So again, this idea of really including people and really being respectful of what's come before. So the show that I'm really curating for the opening is called 13 Women. It was an idea that I had when I was being interviewed for the job. I was asked a question. You probably don't know the collection that well, but what show would you curate using our collection. And so, through the grace of the divine or whatever, I had an inspiration to say I would curate a show called 13 Women, honoring the original founders of the museum and 13 female artists. So sometimes your first idea is not the best idea, but sometimes it is. Yeah. And that is one of the exhibitions that I'm doing.
When I heard that it was going to be called 13 Women, it made me think about, in the last couple of years, we've been hearing a lot about female empowerment and that type of stuff. Do you think that women are underrepresented in the art world?
Oh, for sure. So we did an analysis of our collection, and 70% of our holdings are by male artists. Only 30% are by women. And there is definitely a gender imbalance, but not just in the art world.
Right. Yeah, I think we're seeing that all over the place. So I got to tell you, when I came to Orange County in 1989, I had lived in Los Angeles, I'd lived in the Bay Area, grew up in LA and college in the Bay Area. And when I came here, I was very disappointed at what I perceived as a lack of cultural display and a lack of cultural arts. And, it's been 30 years, and I think we have come a long way in that time frame, but you're a globally recognized leader of art. What was your impression when you came to Orange County about what is our art scene here?
I've been a fan of the museum for a long time, and this museum has been a launching pad for incredible museum directors, incredible museum curators. When I was at the Aspen Art Museum, the first show that I installed there was actually a show from the Orange County Museum of Art that was curated by Liz Armstrong, who I've actually brought back to curate the California Biennial, another one of our opening shows. And so I think that the museum, it may have been like an underutilized resource here. I obviously didn't live here, so I don't know how often other people went to the museum, but I would travel here to come and see California biennials. And I think that this museum has a really important place in the global art world.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that obviously it's going to have a much bigger impact now. One of the things that I was actually talking to David Ims about when we were, kind of thinking about what was to come was we have such a tech, industry here, a huge tech industry. And we see so many of these new art installations where they're bringing in digital technology and those types of things. Is that anything that we might be seeing at the museum moving forward?
I think everything's on the table. And it's important to me that people know that we're not just going to be showing painting, sculpture, photography, video, and that we'll also be showing fashion. We'll be showing graphic design, we'll be showing industrial design, we'll be showing architecture. And we're really looking at art holistically. So there will be programs that are around tattoos or culinary events. And it's a really, I think, open idea of what art is. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I was able to do kind of during my sabbatical year, was think about art in a really broad way and think about what matters to people and is of interest. And I've been really taken by this idea about curiosity and how you can't be curious about something that you don't know anything about. It's just it's a scientific fact. And so we get to prime the pump on people's interest in art. There's such a huge opportunity for us there.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is making me so excited. I love that. Very cool. I think the next generation will be inspired by that as well, right?
Yes.
And I love that Lugano has made that beautiful gift and is allowing free admission, right?
For the first 10 years, yeah. That's free general admission for the first 10 years.
Amazing. 10 years? I thought it was 1 year.
No, 10 years.
So nobody has any excuse not to get their booty in there and
Exactly.
see what's going on. That's awesome. Well, of course, if you were to pick some place in Orange County to move to, Laguna Beach would be it. I know you're a Laguna Beach resident. I'm a long-term Laguna Beach resident as well, and a very artistic city, right?
Yes.
It has deep roots in art. So have you been around to the galleries? Have you picked a favorite gallery in Laguna yet?
I've been around to the galleries a little bit, certainly more to do there. My very first day when I moved in, I was looking for a bike lock and went over to the Laguna Art Museum, and it was closed basically because it was COVID. But they had an exhibition up for their annual benefit, and I, knocked on the door and asked if they would let me in, and I think they kind of looked at me. I had a ponytail and shorts, and they're like, "Who's this person?" I was like, "I'm
I
a new
really like
director."
art. No,
Yeah.
I really do.
I was like, I'm the new director of the Orange County Museum of Art. Can I come in? So, it's great to be able to support that museum and to have that museum in my town as well.
Yeah. It was funny because my grandmother, before she passed away, I was telling her I lived in Laguna. She's like, oh, I lived in Laguna. And I said, oh, well, I live on a little street. It's called Poplar. She goes, I lived on Poplar. And I'm thinking, okay, Grandma's losing it. I'm sure she didn't live on Poplar. And I go, you did, Grandma? She goes, yep, it's right up the street from the Laguna Art Museum. And I was thinking, oh my God, who knew that the art museum had been there for that long?
Yeah.
It's really a cultural icon as
It
well,
is.
for sure. Well, that's so cool. So are you a collector? Or if I were to go over to Heidi's house, what art hangs on your wall?
Yeah, there's a lot of art in our house. And most of the art that's in the house, they're artists that I know, that artists that I've worked with, they're friends of mine. And I'm fortunate to have been gifted some of it for a variety of different reasons. And yeah, I definitely have the collecting bug. I have the addiction. I buy art. And I love living with it. And I love the stories that it tells about my life and my experiences and my interests.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's funny because I'm friends with Wyland. He's a former guest and a friend. And I was over at his apartment the other day, and he was so excited to show me a piece that he had just gotten from another local artist, Brasa, which is actually right directly across from the Wyland Gallery. She is amazing. I have had a chance to meet her, and she did a young Frankenstein. And she does a very kind of eclectic, very bright, kind of bold contrast type art. It is so gorgeous, and Wyland was just so excited. He wanted to show everybody. He was like bringing everybody up to show him the art piece, and I think that's the neat thing about it. It's like if you're passionate about art, and when you get to meet other artists and be able to bring their pieces into your home, I mean, there's just nothing more exciting than that, right?
It's so great when someone comes over and they're interested,
Yeah.
or they recognize something, or they ask a question, and it just sparks a different level of conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not that common, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of people come and they're like, yeah, your house is beautiful, or, whatever it is. But when someone says like, oh, I love David Shrigley, and then you have a whole conversation, around that work.
Yeah, love it. Well, I want to go back and talk a little bit more about the Aspen Art Museum because really you did so much there. You founded the annual ArtCrush Gala.
Yep.
Raised over $130 million. Built a highly acclaimed museum with Shigeru Ban. You tend to work with the best architects that there are out there. What do you miss the most about Aspen?
Probably my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I guess nature. I love the water, and that's one of the reasons I was drawn here. My dream was to be able to walk on the beach every day, and I can do that, which is an incredible gift. And I love the mountains too.
Yeah.
And I loved walking by the river, and that was a source of inspiration for me.
Yeah.
And I love the metaphor of the river being like life, and super choppy, and it's going under rocks, and then for no apparent reason it suddenly flattens out. And so I found a lot of inspiration walking by the river too, and I do miss that.
Yeah, that's actually where I learned to walk because my best friend Veronica Sumner lives there, and we would go. And I'm not much of a walker. I'm an LA girl. Like nobody walks in LA. But we would get out there, and she would take me on those Hunter Creek and all these back trails. And I'm like,
Yep.
Okay, this is some of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life.
It's extraordinary.
Really got me into walking. I don't know if I would miss the cold though.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I don't know when this will come out exactly, but we're filming the middle of April, and there was a snow day yesterday at Aspen Country Day School, which is where my kids went to school. And I thought, you know what, I do not miss a mid-April snow day.
Some things you don't miss, right? But I was also thinking about, in terms of being a curator and putting an exhibit together, and how much does a location impact your thinking in terms of what you want to bring together and how you want to develop an exhibit?
I think it's really important. I think to put together a program absent of space, you're really missing an opportunity. And we've put together 3 tenets for our exhibition program at the Orange County Museum of Art, and one of them is about place and space and place, and really reflecting this community, the way the light is different here, who lived here before, the importance of surf culture, the importance of exercise, being outside, innovation, things that are really specific to Orange County. Those things will be factored for sure in our exhibition program. And in Aspen, it was really important to think about the history of the Pepke family and the Aspen idea, mind, body, spirit, and what does that mean? And being able to connect art with those tenets of what that community values as well.
Oh, I love it, yeah. Well, Heidi, we do a little something here called Big Questions, and this is an opportunity for us to get to know a little bit more about what Heidi's all about. Do you have any consistent daily routines?
I do. I do the same 5 things every morning. I make my bed, I journal, I meditate, I exercise, usually yoga, and I have a matcha latte.
Wow, very cool.
Doesn't matter where I wake up in the world, those are the first 5 things that I do in the day.
How long does that process take you?
Depends. You know, I am really committed to the daily practice and the ritual of it, and less focused on the rigidity of how long the meditation is or what kind of yoga practice or how long a hike is. And for me, it's just about knowing that those rituals ground me, and it kind of expands to fill whatever time I have. But I definitely set the alarm and wake up in enough time to be able to do them before I need to leave for the day.
And what is the journaling? Is that more of like a ideas, or is that more like task list, or what? How does the journal work for you?
So some years ago, I listened to a podcast that Tim Ferriss had done, and it was about morning routines. And I did a lot of the things that the guests had done, but the one thing that I didn't do that a ton of guests talked about was journaling. So I explored journaling in a lot of different ways. I journaled as a kid. I have journals from my high school years. I'm sure they would be so embarrassing to read now. I journaled all through college, you know, my early 20s. And then I took a gap, I guess, for a while when I had my kids and when they were young, and things, you know, get a little more complicated in terms of time management. And so I went back to trying journaling, and I was writing an affirmation, you know, 20 times because I liked that idea. And then that got boring. And then a friend of mine gave me a book that's called The 5-Minute Journal. And it's 6 months worth, and I'm now on, I don't know, my 8th or 10th one. And it starts with a quote, like an inspirational quote. And then it says 3 things that you're grateful for, and then 3 things that would make your day great or that you're looking forward to in your day, and then 1 affirmation. And then you also pick it back up right before you go to sleep, and you write 3 things that were amazing that happened in the day, and 1 thing that you wished you had done differently.
Wow. Okay.
So you go to sleep having clarity on your day, and really expressing in a written form gratitude as your day opens and as your day closes.
I love that. It's I think there's something so important about setting intention and just writing kind of what you hope to achieve that day, not necessarily in a task form, but in a more of an inspirational form. That sounds so cool. I love that. Maybe I might pick that up.
Yeah, Amazon.
There you go. Tell me something that people would be surprised to know about you.
That I'm funny.
Why would they be surprised to know that?
I think that sometimes people make assumptions about, even in the way that you introduced me, like a powerful woman, and that's true too.
Yeah.
And I am funny. You know, I lead with humor, and might be unexpected.
So, what do you think is the purpose of life? Why do you think it is that we're here?
I think we're here to serve humanity. And I think being of service is the highest calling. And that's something that you'll always find me doing is asking, you know, how can I help?
Well, Lisa definitely did a lot of that in her interview and talked about giving back. And it's so interesting how you look at people that seem to have so much, and you would think that their life would be spent just very self-focused, like, okay, I've done all this and I've gotten all this and now I'm just going to kick back and have fun. And to see people who have accomplished so much still focused on what they can do for others and giving back is such a powerful statement. And I've really seen that over and over and over in the guests that we've had on, and it's really opened my eyes to the importance of that. And I think it's part of what makes people great.
Yeah. I think that if you're never, like if you have a day where you're somehow like off kilter or whatever, the best way to get back in alignment is to do something for someone else.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Tell me a piece of advice you were given that proved to be helpful in your life.
I had a vice president of my board at the Aspen Art Museum named Domenico De Soleil. He was the chairman of, or CEO rather, of Gucci, the chairman of Tom Ford, and he said to me, you can never thank people too often. And that is true.
Wow, I love that one. Tell me something that you used to believe but you don't anymore.
That the opinions of other people about you matter.
Oh, that's a good one. I think women especially, we tend to be very concerned about what other people think about us.
Yeah.
So that's powerful. Is there an issue that you think is something that is keeping you up at night or something that we should be worried about?
Yeah, climate change.
Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend is super concerned about climate change, founded a business to address it, and
wow.
it is something that we think a lot about and talk a lot about, and think that the world would benefit from having more urgency around. And we live in a coastal community, so it's really something I think we could spend a little more time thinking about.
So what's the business? How can we help? What can we do?
Absolutely. The business is called Ando Money, and it is the first sustainable bank. And you can join and put your money there, and not only each time do you, when you use it, you get money back, and you can round up and buy a tree with each one of your purchases. So I have already graduated into the third grouping of tree planting, and so I've already planted like an orchard. And carbon offsets from that, and it's a genius idea.
Yeah, so it's all online. There's no physical locations.
Exactly.
Ando Bank.
Ando Money.
Ando Money. Ando Money. Okay, very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Tell me about a goal that you've yet to reach.
We need a name for the Orange County Museum of Art. We need to have the building named.
Oh.
Have not yet achieved that goal.
Really?
Yep.
Well, don't they just usually name it after a big donor or something?
Exactly. It's a $25 million opportunity, and I'm looking to close that.
Yes. Okay, people, step right up. Get your chance. Get your name on the building.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, so I got to tell you, I heard a TED Talk the other day. It was from a Georgia State University professor, Elizabeth Strickler. And it was actually recorded in April of last year, 2021. But it was the best definition or description of NFTs that I've ever heard, because I've heard quite a few, and it's just very confusing in my opinion. So I can't have you here without asking your opinion about NFTs and if you think that is going to be the new future of art.
I don't think it's going to be the new future of art, and I do think that there are likely interesting NFTs that will be created. I think that historically, or not historically, but in the last 2 years that NFTs have been around, aesthetics has not been at the forefront of developing NFTs. They're, I think, largely intended for other purposes, and the aesthetics wasn't the primary interest. So now that the technology is becoming a little more mainstream, a little more accessible, I'm hopeful that there will be some NFTs that are created that are beautiful and are, worthy of a extended place in the collecting community, in the art world.
Yeah. Do you think that there will come a time that NFTs might be represented in the Orange County Museum of Art?
Maybe.
Yeah. If it keeps going in that direction, it's going to be hard to deny it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's always for me less about the medium, and maybe that was apparent when I talked about what the museum's going to be focused on. And it's really more about the intention. Why is someone doing what they're doing? That's what I get curious about. That's what I'm interested in.
And I also like that there's an opportunity to focus kind of more on preserving and protecting the artist, because we see this in so many mediums, not just paint but photography, and so many mediums where the artist is kind of marginalized once it gets out to the public. So I like this idea of them being able to kind of track and making sure that they always have a way of benefiting from their art.
Yeah, I think that will probably happen regardless of whether the art takes a digital form or it takes a more traditional physical form. Yeah, the blockchain. So,
all right. So you got to tell us what can we look forward to in October? I know October is the big opening. We've got a big gala coming up. Tell us what we can look forward to.
Well, probably the best party that Orange County's ever seen, for sure.
Whoop, whoop. I love that.
Right. So October 8th, 5 p.m., we are doing a 24-hour opening at the museum. So from 5 p.m. October 8th until 5 p.m. October 9th, every hour on the hour there'll be programming. So everything from music, which I won't spoil what it is, but multiple musical circumstances, situations, experiences, silent dance party, sunrise yoga, a sleepover, movies for insomniacs. It's going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Tons of things.
Okay, so mark our calendars, October 8th. That's
yeah, and
be amazing.
Free and open to the public. Everyone's invited, and it won't cost you anything.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. So what is going on with the gala? Where is that going to be and all that?
So the gala is called Art Sense. It is October 1st. It will be held at the museum. And the theme this year is Utopia. Because after all of this time, to have the new building built for the citizens of Orange County to be building a museum that Orange County deserves, the celebration will be utopian.
Wow.
So perfection at the end of the tunnel.
I love it. Have you picked your dress yet?
No, but we were talking about it today. They were actually talking about my dress from last year. So last year the theme was futuristic, and I wore a gown that was designed in the year that the museum was built.
Oh my gosh, wow.
It was beautiful.
You always have such cool thinking behind everything you do. She's not going to wing anything. So if people want to find out more about it, where do they go?
We have a website. It is kind of bare bones, but it exists. It's ocma.art, OCMA.art. And that's probably the best place for now. We have a little bit of a social media presence. That'll be getting ramped up. All these things are getting ramped up.
Okay, awesome. More to look forward to. And I got to ask more about your podcast. Is that something that you're going to be able to keep up with in light of all the things coming ahead?
I really enjoy it. One of the things that I enjoy the most is conversations. So the podcasts, the books, they're all about the conversation format. Today, also, I said yes. And I learn things from everyone. And one of the things that's really kind of missing, I would say, in my life right now is getting to look at art with other people. So really looking forward to October. And the podcast is something that comes out every other Tuesday. And we do talk about art. And
our podcast comes out every other Tuesday, too. We've got some competition.
Maybe we're the opposite weeks. So who knows?
There we go.
And we do talk about art, but we really talk about what we value, what matters to us, and how to build community. So yeah, it's on Apple and Spotify and anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Heidi. I really appreciate you coming down and making time, and I really look forward to more fun times ahead.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Delphine Circle. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and it will help us keep these incredible interviews coming your way. Here are 2 other episodes you may enjoy. I'm Delphine. Welcome to my circle.